Welcome to Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. We're happy that you're joining us either live right now or listening to later today. Well, I am so grateful and honored to bring Sir Darren Jacklin, who is a world-class speaker, corporate trainer, PhilanthroInvestor. Oh my goodness, and he has an amazing story. Darren has an uncanny ability to increase wealth and success by uncovering hidden assets, overlooked opportunities, and undervalued possibilities. For over 23 years, he has traveled 4 continents and personally trained over 1 million people in over 48 countries. He has mentored entrepreneurs and business owners on specific and measurable strategies. These strategies have then been implemented into businesses to increase income, transform obstacles into cash flow, and turn passion into profits. But this is not half of the journey. We just scratching the surface right now. So welcome, Sir Darren Jacklin. We are so honored to have you with us.
I'm grateful to be here in service, Ida. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity.
Absolutely. So because your story is so compelling, we're going to start there. Tell us about Sir Darren Jacklin.
Well, you know, it's interesting. So I always say with people, there's three parts. There's the backstory, the come-up story, and the success story. And when I travel around the world and I'm speaking at live events or conferences or college universities or being on podcasts, you know, I find that more people relate more to the backstory of the overcoming the adversities, the failures, the challenges, the obstacles, you know, not being good enough, not being smart enough versus the successes, right? And a lot of people look at the successes today, they're all great, but they don't see the thousands of hours behind the scenes of sometimes sleepless nights and the adversities and the challenges and stuff. So I have a very unique backstory. That's different than a lot of other people. You know, we all have a backstory, but, you know, I failed grade 1 of public school, was misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability by the school system. And then I was put into what we call special education from grade 1 all the way through to grade 12. So I didn't go to regular public school. Grew up in a small city of less than 20,000 people in population. My parents didn't know. It was just what the school system told them. And so, you know, age 7, created my first little business called Rent a Kid. I'd go out and cut grass, shovel snow in the wintertime, deliver newspapers, and solve problems in my neighborhood. And by the time I was 9 years old, hired my best friends that worked with me. And, you know, I'm 50 years of age now, and 43 years later, we're still great friends to this day. So I learned at a young age, really entrepreneurship skills, self-employment skills that I use to this day. So I never went to college, never went to university, barely passed public high school, you know, did multiple suicide attempts to end my life. I was once homeless. Living on the streets. I ate my next meal out of a garbage dumpster. I've had my car repossessed. I've had the worst possible credit score you can get. You know, I was behind on my bills, had bill collectors, debt collectors, all that kind of stuff that I went through in my 20s and my 30s, and just a lot of financial pressures and adversities and challenges. And you know, I go to workshops and seminars and different courses, and I'd see people get up on stage and talk about their success. And I'd leave feeling more and more depressed and deflated. And I'd put these people on a pedestal and then put myself on in the pit. And I just thought, nothing's working for me. Like, things are just not working for me. I can read books, I can take courses, get around different people. And I just kept on screwing up and making mistakes and digging a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper hole in my life. And then at 38 years of age, I just confronted myself one day in a mirror and I said, I'm enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being financially broke. And I went on this path of really personal professional development, financial development, health, all that stuff. And just over that, 12-year period, really transformed my life. And started to really do things right in terms of getting my money right, working on my health, my relationships, all that stuff. And so I know what's to do. I know what it's like to screw up and make mistakes. I've got a PhD in that, and making mistakes and stuff. So, and I've got a lot of stories that we can unpack and share in the time that we have. that there's a lot of life lessons in these stories that can really serve and create a ripple of impact in people's lives. And, the background behind me is Link Foundation. I have a international family foundation that with Tatiana, the love of my life. Tatiana was a high school teacher for 35 years, got 3 academic degrees. And so we built schools now for some of the poorest children on the planet as an international foundation called Link Foundation and stuff. And that came out of, our success is someone else's miracle. Mm-hmm. And, I was one of these guys that lived paycheck to paycheck, not enough month at the end of the money, barely scraping by financially just to get by when I had different jobs. And I thought, how am I ever going to get ahead? Well, I'm going to go work more overtime hours. I'm going to take more shifts at the job. And I just ended up working more and more hours, expending more and more time and energy, and never ever getting ahead. So I learned some practical strategies on what to do, how to avoid and break through over a period of time, the paycheck to paycheck, how to get out of that rat race of life. And then how do I work on myself, right? Because I've got childhood trauma, I've got insecurities, I've got blind spots, I've got fears, I've got doubts, I've got worries. How do I start to work on those and create an environment of people around me that are like-minded, that really got my back and want to support me and champion me versus criticize me and want to put me down and make fun of me and stuff. So feel free to ask any questions. And if I can serve you and serve the audience, people are listening or watching, then we'll do a great job today making a difference in people's lives, and people can take some notes of some practical things I can share with them.
Yes, absolutely. And your story is many people's story, mm-hmm. And a lot of times it starts from childhood. You're not good enough. You can't, yes. You get more can'ts than you get you can.
Yes, absolutely.
And that has an impression when you, as a kid and growing up. And like you said, you had to work on yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, getting rid of that baggage, how do people get rid of that baggage, get rid of that belief system that's not serving them?
Great question, Ida. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Mm-hmm. And the ego wants to protect us. And so when things are not working in your relationships or your finances or your job or your career, you got to realize, okay, this is not working for me. It's a vicious cycle. It's the same old all the time. And so what I realize is I get around other people, which I create an inner circle or a life team, and I go through what we call an inspection. And sometimes these are not your immediate family or friends. These are people that you might meet at courses or workshops or seminars or at church, or somebody in your community or somebody online that you get to know and like and trust and build that relationship equity with. And what I focus on is, in relationships, intimate relationships, I always say, for example, myself, like Tatiana, she's my greatest coach in my life. She knows my strengths. She knows my weaknesses. She knows my fears, my doubts, my worries. She knows my insecurities, and she also knows my blind spots. And I know in my life that, for example, Tatiana, I look at, when things are challenging and tough, and I used to think, oh my gosh, she's complaining and I want out of here. Now I look at, wow, look how committed this woman is to this relationship. Look how committed she is to having me becoming the extraordinary man that I want to be, that I may not see right now. That's a blind spot to me, but she sees my potential. She sees the upside. Mm-hmm. And she has a female intuition that's very strong and very dialed in and stuff. So the key thing is, what I find is, get around people, start shaking hands with the different men and women who are already living the life or lifestyle that you want to create in the next 2 to 3 years of your life. So if you want a promotion at your job or your career, and you see somebody that's already got that, how can you be in more proximity to him or her and start having conversations, start to model what they're doing, because success leaves clues. If you want to, you drive around a neighborhood and you start going to open houses saying, man, I'd love to live in this neighborhood someday, but man, I don't have the money. Well, we don't have money problems in life. We only have thinking problems in life. There's no lack of financial resource in the money. I used to have a mindset and a belief system that there's always a shortage of money, because I looked around my environment, everybody lived paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. And then when I started to realize that if you want to earn more money, you solve problems for other people. If you look at a lot of professions, accountants, you look at massage therapists, reflexologists, engineers, architects, doctors, chiropractors, dentists, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, construction workers, these men and women are all solving problems.
Yes.
They're all solving problems. They get paid to solve problems. So if you want to make more money, look at solving a problem. And one of the things that I did, there's times where I was behind on my financial bills. I would say to myself, okay, what's the fastest path to cash right now? How can I make a few $100s? What I do is I look around my environment. my home, my apartment. Say, okay, what do I have right now that I haven't used in the last 12 months? Is there some clothes? Is there an exercise bike? Is there some golf clubs? Is there a canoe, a kayak? What's around me in my close proximity that I could sell, online on a different website, or I could put in my front yard with a sale sign, and I could sell in the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours and make some cash. So when people start to realize around them that money is sitting around them that's not being used, that you could repurpose something. That's one of the fastest paths to cash. And then it gives you a little bit of a buffer of time, a little bit of breathing room to say, okay, great. How can I serve people in my neighborhood? How can I serve people in my community? How can I serve people online? How can I offer a product or a service or an opportunity to these people around me? And one of the things that I noticed in my life when things were not working is because I didn't have any integrity. And what I discovered was integrity, without it, nothing works. In fact, I'll share with you a definition I have in my iPhone that I always share with people. This is my definition of integrity that with my teams that work with me and our staff, I always share with them. Integrity is I do what I say I will do when I say I will do it in the expected way. And if I can't get it done, it's my responsibility to clean up my mess and fix whatever mess is there and set new conditions of satisfaction and by when dates. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, growing up in my 20s and 30s, I'm 50 years of age now, but I would promise something, I would give my word to something, and I wouldn't follow through. There'd be no deliverable. And what happened was I developed around me, people had a listing of me that I'm unreliable. I'm not trustworthy. I'm not a man of my word. And so what I realized in my life, when I started to pay attention to the words that come out of my mouth, we hear a lot of times in business that people say, talk is cheap. I think we can take one step further, that most people cheapen their talk because their words have no power. There's no workability. And so if people just realize, like one of the ways that I built my self-confidence, I'm a very confident person today, but I was very insecure growing up. And the thing was because throughout the waking hours of my day, I would have all these tasks that I need to do, all these errands I need to run, but I wouldn't follow through on them. Well, I got to make my bed. I got to go grocery shopping. I got to pay this bill. I got to do all this stuff. And I'm like, and then I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'll put it off. I'll procrastinate. And what I realized, if I can't keep my promise to myself, then how can I expect or trust anybody else to keep their word? And so I really started to do an internal deep dive of myself to really focus on. So one of the things I encourage people to do as an exercise, a practical, experiential, results-based exercise, is do an integrity checklist. And I always challenge people, right, as a bonus opportunity to write down, and you start at number 50, 49, and count down all the way down to number 1. Come up with a checklist of 50 things that you're out of integrity on your life personally and professionally. You may go back 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But the key thing is to document down on paper, where are you out of integrity? Where did you give your word to something and you didn't honor your agreement and follow through? And people say, Darren, you're crazy. I can't come up with 50. And I've done this with thousands and thousands of people all over the world, in 50 countries around the world, and 4 continents, from people from all walks of life, some of the most impoverished people on planet Earth in some of the third world countries, to some of the most affluent, wealthy, high net worth, ultra high net worth people from every different walk of life. And what you'll discover through this process is that we all have out of integrities. And when we start to look at where are we out of integrity, where's our blind spots, where do we give our word to something? And if you don't know, then just ask your spouse or partner, significant other, or people around you that spend a lot of time with you, personally or professionally, and ask them where you're out of integrity. And trust me, they'll help you fulfill on the list of 50 things, okay? They'll probably go past 50 things, and they did with me. And what you'll discover is sometimes it can be overwhelming and become stressful, but what it does, you're going to feel the weight off your shoulders. You start to realize, wow, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel here. There's possibility here that I can actually do something. Now, once you start to document and write it down where you're out of integrity, now you go to work. And this is where the ego, where I feel embarrassed, I feel stupid, I don't feel good enough, all this negative self-talk. You go to people and say, listen, I need to apologize to you. I gave you my word 2 weeks ago. I was going to do this for you, and I didn't follow through on that. And I would like to know, Ida, because it really bothers me or troubles me, what's the impact in your life by me not doing this? Because how people will make a change in their behaviors when they're present to the other person, the other human being's impact on their life. So I'll give an example, being on time. Okay. So I had during COVID-19, during the lockdown a couple of years ago, I was on this big Zoom video conference. When everybody was in lockdown, I was, all these workshops and conference seminars pivoted to online, Zoom and other platforms. So one day I got invited to be on this big conference, people from all over North America paying money to be on this program. I logged in 5 minutes on this Zoom link, and then all of a sudden my computer said I need to do security updates on the Zoom. Well, the person that was introducing me, I didn't have his or her mobile number or a telephone number. I only had a primary email address. So I sent them an email address from my iPhone, but they didn't see my email because they were letting people into the Zoom room, right? They were meeting and greeting people coming into the Zoom room. So here I am, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't have a contingency plan that there would be some security updates on Zoom. So I ended up coming into the Zoom meeting like 3 or 4 minutes late. Okay. And to me, on time is early and on time is early and on time to me is pardon me, I should say being early is on time and on time is late. That's what I meant to say.
You're right.
And what happened was I ended up being late 3 to 4 minutes. I came in and the host of this Zoom thing is good. Let's just jump right into introducing Darren. I said, listen, can we just stop for a moment and pause? I need to declare a breakdown here that I'm out of integrity. And the person's like, oh, don't worry about it. We're short on time. Let's just roll. And I'm like, no, because people aren't going to say because they're going to be friendly and polite, professional to you. But in the back of people's minds they're like, is this person reliable? Can I trust this person? Because here's the reason why. Behavior never lies. Behavior never lies. People need to write that down. Put it on your mirror. Put it on a sticky note. Behavior never lies. Watch people's feet, not their lips. Because it's the behavior of people. People always show based on their behavior. That's the evidence. And so people talk, but you watch their feet, not the lips. And so what happened was I wanted to demonstrate that I was out of integrity. I wanted to clean up the mess that was out of integrity, but also restore the integrity so people would have a different listing of me. Now, years ago, I would care less about that. Oh, don't worry, I'm late. Who cares? Right. But the higher the levels you start to play and the bigger game you play at life to serving humanity and making a bigger contribution, nationally, internationally, or globally, the key thing is more and more people are watching you. And so one of the big things that really changed the needle for me in my life measurably was really paying attention to what I give my word to. And when I give my word to something, there's a by-when date that's specific, that's measurable, and that's actionable. So whenever somebody says to me they want to do, whenever I delegate something to somebody or ask them to do something, if they don't have a structure, for example, a calendar, and they put it in their calendar with a by-when date, then and then an alarm system on their phone, the chance of them falling through decreases.
Yes.
So because there's no workability. And so what I've found in my life now is I'm very specific versus general on my communication. And so when I communicate with people, people get my communication, but they also know that I'm going to follow through because I've got a structure in place with an accountability to actually follow through and complete it. And that's one of the things that I've learned in my life is always do complete work. Commit to your commitments. Even when it's hard, you don't feel like it, you're jet lagged, you're tired, you just, you want to just go to bed, you want to sleep, you want to go with some friends. No, you gave your word to something, you follow through and do complete work, and you commit to your commitments, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's scary, you still follow through and do complete work, because never assume you're not being observed. Never assume you're not being observed. We are always being watched and always being observed, and people are watching our behavior because behavior never lies. So on the come up, people are like, man, I'm going through a lot of adversities or failures or challenges right now. Great. But when you're starting to tell people that you're going to come up, people are going to see if you're going to be consistent. Are you going to consistently follow through? And how you know is by people's daily habits, their daily routines, right? Daily habits and daily routines. What do they do during the waking hours of the day? What's the structures they have in place from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed? What's their daily habits, their daily routines, what's their rituals, and what's their rules, right? What's their rules? So what do you mean rules? Well, like I don't take unscheduled telephone calls in the morning because it's a distraction to me. I don't search social media channels and instant message you back and forth. It's a distraction for me. It's not the best and highest use of my time. So these are some of my rules. Okay. So you got to create rules and rituals and habits that are daily. and plan the night before. So I know my calendar, week, quarter, months in advance. I plan very far out. But every night before I go to bed, I look at my calendar the next day of what my accountables are, what my responsibilities are, and what I'm committed to. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I also scenario plan, best case scenario, likely case scenario, worst case scenario. What could possibly go wrong this, tomorrow? Like as I'm having this conversation with you right now, for example, if the electricity goes out where I am, or the Wi-Fi or the internet goes down, I have two places in close proximity here that I can go to as a contingency plan, as a backup, because I gave my word to follow through on this podcast interview with you. So I'm always thinking contingency plans just in case, so that I can honor the integrity and honor my word. Now, some people say, well, that's ridiculous. Like, why would you do that? If you want to play at a high level and you want to be an outstanding person of what you're doing, when you start to do this, you create a lot of safety and a lot of security of people around you. And you will start to attract people, because success is not something that we go out in the world to pursue. Success is something we attract into our lives by the person that we become. So you want to become a successful person. You want to become an attractive person. We always think, oh my gosh, I go out there and I pursue and I get the degrees and get the education. You'll climb the corporate ladder. You'll climb the ranks, but you'll be unfulfilled. Yeah. There's no joy there. There's no joy, right? And you recently went through an event in your life and you're realizing now that, hey, that breakdown is going to create a breakthrough. That crisis is going to become an opportunity for you, right? Yeah. And that's exciting times. You're in exciting times right now. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that when I was living on welfare, or I was homeless, living on the streets, man, I was in stressful times. I was just trying to think where I'm going to get my next meal from. But today I look back and think, wow, when I was knocking on doors with my rent-a-kid business, when I was making 400 cold calls a day as a telemarketer, 2,000 cold calls a week, and 98% of those calls were rejection calls, I realized it taught me mental toughness. It taught me focus and discipline and accountability and responsibility. So nothing's ever in our way. It's only on our way. Yeah. And so when we're going through these challenges and setbacks, look at them as blessings in disguise. Now, when you're going through it, it's not always easy, because the mindset to say like, oh my gosh, like I'm 4 days away and I'm trying to figure out how to pay my rent, or, I'm 3 months behind and they're going to come pick up my car and repossess it down the street in front of my neighbors. I've been there. Right. And the things I look back and think, wow, I was so attached to that, but realize that there's so much life lessons to unpack out of that can really serve ourselves in terms of where we're going forward in life. Yes.
So true. So true. Oh my God. So if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
Yeah, there's different ways. So we have, I'm involved in a number of different companies, actively and passively. They can go to DarrenJacklin.com. DarrenJacklin.com. If you want to come out and be in the outdoors and you want to come hiking with me, one of my passions is hiking. I hike all over the world. In a few months, I'm going to be hiking Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, East Africa. We raise awareness, raise money to build schools for Link Foundation. But you can go to hikingfundraiser.com, and we do hikes all over North America right now, and people get to come outdoors with me. And, these are hikes that people from all walks of life can do. They're not advanced hikes, but it's hikingfundraiser.com, and you can join what we call E2E, which is Elevate to Educate. And we like to elevate people to educate people. And the key thing is there's lots of trail talk. So when people are coming out, we have some inspiring collaborative conversations, and we raise your vibration of energy, because not only out in nature, and it's so fun when I take people out on hiking trips and people come through hikingfundraiser.com. I'm like, do you hear the birds? Like, I don't hear birds, because they're so busy in the rush hour rat race of traffic and, and they're being on their cell phone or being plugged into social media. They realize I never even heard the birds. So I always say, you come hiking with me, I'll impact and influence your life, because you're going to have a growth opportunity being around me. So just come down hikingfundraiser.com. And if there's a date that's not on the website, put your contact information there, and we'll send you some information when something comes up available in the US or Canada, and come out and meet people from all walks of life, have some fun, make a difference, be in community, and have a great time doing it.
Yes. And that's the best way to, like you said, get your energy levels up.
Yes.
And you will have so many aha moments, and you're having fun.
Having fun. Absolutely. Yeah. Because life is short, right? And one of the things to understand about human behavior is that in life, we're either coming from a problem, we're in a problem right now, or we're heading towards a problem. Every human being experiences this. We're coming from a problem, in a problem, or heading towards a problem.
Yeah.
So when people realize that, oh my gosh, I'm in a problem or a challenge or a crisis right now, realize that everybody in the world, every human being on this planet is solving for something. They're all solving for something, right? Everybody is solving something throughout life, no matter what walk of life, no matter where they live on the planet, they're solving for something. Just like in the wildlife, just like in nature, all those wild animals are all solving for something to eat, to survive. Okay. Yes. So the key thing is that when we start to be authentic and be vulnerable, and vulnerable used to be a sign of weakness for me. And I've worked a lot with that in my life and have a great team of people around me as part of my life team today. But vulnerability and authenticity is so important, and coming from the heart and realizing that, you know, when you can level up and skill up your life and you're in a much better place, your success is someone else's miracle.
Yes.
Like I never would imagine years ago when I was homeless and living on the streets and on welfare that I'd ever go to NASDAQ and ring the closing bell 3 times. I never knew that I'd help be part of a company from a startup to a multi-billion-dollar company that has almost 100,000 people in the organization that I serve on the board of directors with. I never would imagine that I own the real estate I own today as a portfolio and have an international foundation and invest in multiple different companies across North America and international. I never would imagine this. I never would have realized that I created a book called Until I Become that became, you know, an international book now. It's all over the world and it's serving lots of people. Never would I imagine this in my life. But when I started to change and my environment and people started to change, the conversation started to change. And that's why when people come out with me and they say, how do I get around you? Come out hiking with me on hikingfundraiser.com. And that one conversation might change the direction and the focus of where you're going to go in your life. And just one conversation can totally give you a different direction and a different roadmap in your life and a different plan.
Yes.
And in my life, I'm living proof of that. And I've had people come to my life because when the student is ready, the teachers appear in your life. And
to that. To that. Your book. What's the name of your book?
The book is called Until I Become. And people can get it at untilibecome.com, or you can go to Amazon and buy it, or just Google it, called Until I Become. The book is being used in schools, prison systems, transition houses, organizations, companies, villages, all over the world.
Wow. So I'm definitely have to pick up this book, Until I Become. I love the title.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful title, and it definitely strikes a nerve. Because then you have to reflect, what do I want to become?
That's right.
And what do I need to do to get there?
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about the Sir Darren.
Oh, yeah. Great question. So where were we? January 2022, I received a telephone call. And they said, you know, we've been watching, observing you, and really inspired by all of your global work that you're doing around the world. You know, all the entrepreneurship, all the business you're involved with, all the speaking and training you're doing, and then also the philanthropy and humanitarian stuff that you're doing. And I know a few people that throughout my travels of being at conferences and conventions and charity events, I've met people, you know, Nobel Peace Prize winners. I've met Olympic athletes, celebrities, movie stars, all those types of people, billionaires, lots of that. So I know a few different people. And so I was nominated by 2 different people to a nomination committee, a global nomination committee. And there's over 400 people that were nominated globally from all different walks of life from all over the world. And there's 8 different categories. And I was chosen out of the areas of entrepreneurship and philanthropy.
Wow. This has been an awesome conversation. We're going to come to have you back because we need to talk about your PhilanthroInvestor role that you play. And, you know, you'll be the second person that I've talked to that is doing this type of thing.
Great. Fantastic.
So we definitely want to have you back really soon so that way we can get into that part of your life. So
anyway, I can make a difference and be in service. I'd love to contribute.
Yes. So thank you so much, Sir Darren.
I'm grateful to be here.
I really appreciate this. This was very timing for me. And, you know, God always knows what you need when you need it. So thank you so much for empowering me. And I know that you're going to be empowering our audience. Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.